Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, namaste, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 280th episode. In the last 279 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with more than 7,000 school leaders on this very platform, where they have shared their ideas, opinions, innovation, and what all new are they doing in the education space. So today as well, before we start this episode, this conversation is going to be between teenagers, school leaders, teachers, and where we'll be delving into another topic on how is the world for teens changing, what all new is happening, what do these educators think. Before we start the session, just some ground rules for everyone. First of all, think of the Blub World Web Talks like a speaking sprint. It's not a speaking marathon. It's kind of a 100-meter sprint. So whenever your speaking time comes to an end, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity crisp and entertaining for everyone. So put your best foot ahead and use the time to its best. Whenever you see my hand up in the air or you see Blubber's hand up in the air, that's simply to give you a prompt that you have the final 30 seconds to conclude. You don't need to recognize me raising up my hand. You can just start concluding. It's just a prompt for you. This particular episode is a global episode where we have school leaders from multiple countries. So we would request everyone to please stick to English. Otherwise, Blub World Web Talk is a bilingual platform. We use two languages, English and Hindi. But today's session, we'll try to stick to English. Now, most importantly, everyone who's there on the call, all the speakers, please keep your videos on during the complete conversation. A very warm welcome to all of you to the 280th episode. Today, we are going to talk about something superbly interesting that's happening across the world. There are more than 42 countries that have already banned the use of social media for teenagers. Now, do we want that to happen more? Do we don't want that to happen more? What do we really want? What's the aspiration of a teenager? What's the aspiration of a school leader and a teacher? What do they think on this? Because the worst part of policy making that's happening around it is these policies are for teens and no one's asking them. And I don't think in any democracy across the globe, you should be making policy for stakeholders whom you don't even consult. So let's see what these teens say today. Today's topic, brings us to this juncture where we are right now, at the World Teen Parliament, that an institution that we operate, we do a lot of sessions where members of parliament from different countries interact with teenagers. So right now, we're also starting a series there where teens could really give suggestions to policymakers that how should you be implementing whatever you're saying about social media. So let's start this conversation. Let's see what the speakers have to say. Let's start with a teenager and then go to an adult to keep this spirit alive. A very warm welcome to the first speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Ms. Shiksha Kumari, who's a grade 9 student from Mahadevi Birla Shishu Vihar from Kolkata, West Bengal, India. She's also an MP at the 5th World Teen Parliament. Shiksha, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Imagine this. A generation can unlock a phone just in 2 seconds and cannot look in their parents' eye for 2 seconds because they asked him that why were you awake all night? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to one and all present here. Today, I'm not here to talk about technology. I'll talk something which is far more dangerous than that. A social suicide, a modern tragedy. Not the death of the body, but the slow death of our childhood. Let me give you a scene. A family sits together at the dinner table. Four people, four screens. No eye contact, no laughter, no conversation. Just silence and scrolling. So, are they making connections or insulation? Let me give you another example. Imagine there's this 12 to 13 years old boy. He uploads a photo on social media and now he keeps checking his phone again and again. 10 likes, 20 likes, 30 likes. But that's not enough for him. He wants 50 likes or more. So now his happiness starts depending on numbers and his confidence depends on strangers. And slowly he starts losing himself. He thinks that that 50% person has more confidence and is perfect. So this is not just a problem. This is a social suicide. That is why 42 countries are now supporting a bold idea. No smartphones until the age of 40. But why 40? A child needs a Playdrop, not a profile. He needs friends, not followers, and he needs memories, not notification. So let me ask something to you. What is more powerful? Climbing the tree, feeling the wind, laughing with friends, and making memories? Or watching someone else do it on a 6-inch screen? We are raising a generation that is awake all night and tired all day, connected everywhere but belongs to nowhere. Guys, I'm not saying that smartphones are evil. Yes, they help us, but too early is too much, and they steal attention, confidence, and worst of all, our childhood. So, this movement is not about control or technology. It's simply about protection and saving humanity. So let's give something which is more powerful than screens. Give them storybooks, novels, and their real smile. Because one day they'll not remember the post they liked or how much followers and likes they had in a video or in a photo. They'll remember the moments they lived, truly lived. So let's not let childhood disappear into a screen. Because the real question is not, can children live without smartphones? The real question is, can we let those lose themselves because of them? The choice is ours and the time is now. So don't let a screen write a story that a child was meant to live. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shiksha. I think a very apt start to the conversation. Let's compare the real world to the digital world and see what kind of a life do you really want to live. But before we go, deeper into the conversation, let me be the devil's advocate. Let me put a small little pinch into the, this recipe. If policing or banning stuff could really control things, there won't be any crimes in the world. Think of it. Let's see what the other speakers have to say. Let me invite the next speaker for today. Thank you so much, Shiksha. The next speaker, a very warm welcome to Ms. Preethi Rao, who's the Director of Partnerships and Outreach at Lead Kriya University from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. Ms. Preethi, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh. And it was great to hear Siksha's really enthusiastic speech and a difficult act to follow. Like Daksh mentioned, I'm the Director of Partnerships Outreach at Lead at Kriya University. So I'm wearing two hats in this conversation. One is, of course, from the education sector, from the research sector, looking at it from the perspective of how education centers and youth are, accessing this kind of technology and what's causing harms or providing them information on that. But also as a parent, I have a 14-year-old son as well. So from a very personal perspective, also how this is unfolding within the household. So just to take a step back, like Dakshi mentioned, almost 42 countries have taken up this ban, and we know that Australia, France, all of them have announced very clear bans across the world. But this is also timely because India is right now shaping our social media. We won't call it a ban, but they're calling it a restriction in a sense, right? So we have probably 90 days to a bill that probably will pass, which will, talk more in detail about what kind of restrictions will be in place. But India is taking a different stance. So it's looking at it in a graded perspective. So we're looking at it as, from 8 to 12 age group, from 12 to 16, 16 to 18. So the rules are different for these age groups that we are proposing. And also a lot of things are, separate across states. So for example, Andhra is proposing a total ban below 13 years of age, while Karnataka is proposing, below 16 years of age ban. So there are a lot of things to debate about the age cutoff, about, geographical, variations and how this will impact across India and so on. So that's a different probably discussion altogether. But coming back to, if this is a social suicide for, a teenager, or if it's something that is probably required at this stage, couple of things mass media has been talking about is, of course, all your Epstein files, pedophile kind of, narratives. You have your manosphere narrative through the Adolescent series. So all this, altogether as a parent also, I'm afraid what my child is going through in social media world, right? So those are some of the cons that definitely have to keep in mind. But on the other hand, we also do a lot of research about vulnerable groups, about excluded groups like women, for instance. So is this ban going to, create like a right to information, like obstruct a right to information of these vulnerable groups? Are women going to be, more excluded because they are not, the young girls are not able to access social media? So that is another kind of perspective. So I'd love to hear others talk. And yes, both of you.
So much, Ms. Preethi. And yes, these bans are now, when a policy maker makes a policy, because we interact with more than, every year at the BWT Parliament, we interact with at least 50 to 60 policy makers from more than 40, 50 nations. One thing that we have realized while having these conversations with them, when a policymaker makes a policy, it's not only with the purpose of meeting one agenda. For a policymaker, policy sometimes is only about staying relevant. And sometimes it could have negative impact on the stakeholders. So the point we are trying to make during this conversation is, if people like you, like teenagers, like educationists, if you are not part of policy making that influences education, then I think the wrong agenda will get met by the policy makers. So the purpose is, what is your thought? What should be done? What should not be done? Like, just to give you an example, China did not ban social media as a whole, but it banned online gaming and put a limit of 3 hours to it. Different countries have taken different ideas. As school leaders, you face this every single day with many teens. So, what's your take on it? What should be done? What should not be done? Thank you so much, Ms. Preethi. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Akanksha Shrivastava, the principal of Narayana E-Techno School from Rajkot, Gujarat, India. Akanksha, ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Hi, namaskar everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to the people all around the world. Thank you so very much, Daksh and Shiksha, and also Preethi ma'am. Shiksha, you were really very, very good. And I am sure if children start thinking on your lines, a lot of things will change in the nation. Yes, Daksh, very rightly you have put up the agenda is very well set. I am putting my words, in the minds of people in a way, as Preeti ma'am was mentioning, we are not just educators and leaders, but also we are parents. So a generation like us who were born between 80s to 90s, we are the ones who started digital media usage in the country and in the world. We are the ones who are the maximum users right now, and now we are facing difficulty because our children are facing problems because of it. So quite ironic, but yeah, that's a fact. So I would start the conversation by saying that today's teenagers are actually more connected than ever, but they are feeling more alone than ever. And the only reason is because we are letting them get into this trap. Believe me when I say it, that I was going through the data this morning and I figured out that these online predators and also exposure to this harmful content which is available free to air, no restriction of which content will be watched by whom in a country like ours, it is very, very difficult. In a nation like ours where there is still not more than 60% literacy across the nation, how can we expect the parents to have this restriction over their children the right way? So definitely we have to look up for a policy which can control all of these stuffs. Algorithm manipulation, which is nowhere hidden in the world, which is playing around with the minds of the people, especially with teenagers, because that is a big industry for anything that you want to sell today. We are a nation of youth, we know it. So obviously all of this is leading to what should not happen to the children of our country, and not just our country but to the entire world. But I want to figure out, mention some crux of who's the actual user. So, while figuring out the data, I found out that it is 13% girls in the world, over 9% boys. So the problem is children are looking for approvals online. Like, they're looking for constant validation coming from somebody of their own age. They're not looking for a validation of their parents or their mentors, So very difficult. FOMO, online bullying and trolling, and living a fake life. So what are the solutions? I would, end up my conversation and this discussion by saying that it is a breeding ground for problems like anxiety, depression. We all know it. It is high time we come up with practical solutions, regulate it somewhere, and bring it to a consensus by practical discussion with the children of what is good for them, giving them some solutions, learning solutions, and that should help the children. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Akanksha, ma'am. Teenage specifically is that age of any human being at which point they haven't found their tribe. They don't know their identity. They don't know how the world perceives them. They are searching for meaning. They're searching for the meaning of their own existence. And that is the time they take acceptance from anywhere. They make it a part of them. And that's where the danger really comes in. Where did today's topic really come up? There's something called the Global Mind Project that started in 2025, which analyzed nearly 2 million participants across 163 countries. What they judged all these participants was to basically understand their mental health quotient. And what they understood was that if a teenager is given a smartphone at the age of 13, their quotient score is 30. But if they are given smartphones at the age of 5, which is happening in most of the households at the moment, their mental health quotient score is 1. Just some food for thought. Let's listen to the further speakers, what they have to add to the topic. A very warm welcome to Mr. Andrew Fresluddin, who's the co-founder and CEO for Global Citizenship and Cultural Intelligence Education from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Andrew, I hope I pronounced your name right. Over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Okay, hi there. Just to let you know, I've been ahead of school for over a decade, and then I'm pivoting to starting this new endeavor. In any case, thank you very much. It's very interesting and enlightening to listen to some of the comments today, and I think I'm learning a lot, and I'm always learning. It's I like to be in the camp of balance. So I think in a world where there are many competing interests or many competing social media applications out there or technology-based solutions, it's about balance. And I would lean towards trying to create a system whereby we're educating students on proper usage or responsible usage. So maybe we can call it responsible usage. The cell phones and technology are not going anywhere. And I've seen many different perspectives as we have today and around the world, and talking to different colleagues. I just spoke to a colleague of mine who's a teacher in the elementary section, and he was saying, some of this research might be actually true because the attention span of kids in his classes has been diminished over time, but they somehow have a policy of allowing cell phones even in class. And then there's another layer of classroom management and disciplinary policies in the school, or whether you allow them or not. So, without repeating what some of you have said, I would just say that I always look for balance, look at the evidence, let's see what makes sense. The technology is not going anywhere, but let's learn how to use it responsibly. And what responsible usage means might be different in different contexts and different countries. So we'll have to figure out exactly what that means in each context, in each country, and then engage in sensible approaches and policies that make sense in those contexts. So I think I could go on for hours, but I'll just leave it there. That's my contribution for today. Thank you so much for listening to all of you. It's some great ideas coming out here. I love it. Thanks, Daksh.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And yes, we all try to be in the balanced camp, but the challenge is when you're in the balanced camp, both the camps at the far ends think you don't understand anything about the topic. But at the end of the day, we have to come to that middle ground. Let me just put some statistics for everyone who's there on the call to add a little more context. Under the age of 13, more than 42% of US kids have smartphones. 70% of 12-year-olds own smartphones. Nearly 90% of 12-year-olds in the UK own smartphones. These numbers are not sheer coincidence. They are out of human habits. The way we have, adapted to tech is like we have fallen in love with it. And the romance isn't coming to an end even when it's hurting us. It's kind of a toxic relationship that we have built with technology and specifically for children. So, what are we trying to know during this conversation? We're just trying to know this: where is the point where we stop the romance? Because school leaders and teachers, you are the ones who are standing on the front line every single day. Your thought process would shape how the next generation really looks like. Thank you so much, Andrew. Let me invite the next speaker for today. I think let's go back to a teenager and then come back to adults. A very warm welcome to Ms. Sadiya Abrar, who's a grade 8 student from Radiant Public School, Anantnag, Jammu and Kashmir, India. Sadiya, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Hello everyone, I'm Sadiya Abrar, a student of Radiant Public School, and today I am here to share my thoughts on the topic social suicide. Why are many countries joining no smartphone until 14 moment? Well, to understand the situation better, let's take an example of two situations. In a school class, many students use smartphones. They make WhatsApp groups, they share memes online, and even they plan outings online. One of the student who is not access to smartphone because his parents follow no smartphone until 14 moment. He doesn't get to know about the memes, he doesn't get to know about the plans, and even when his friends talk about something online he has never heard of, he feels left out of the chat and often disconnected. So some people use the strong phrase social suicide. But if we take the example of another child who is not access to smartphone also, but instead of overthinking, he just uses his time. He plays football in the evening, he talks to his friends face to face, and even he spends his time in hobbies. He is confident in life, he focuses in the class better, and even speaks with confidence. So supporters say that this is protecting childhood, not social suicide. Well, childhood comes once in life, it can always there, whether you are 10, whether you're 20 or 30 years old. Emotional strength and real life connections are far better and very valuable than this technology. So the question isn't whether we are access to smartphone, but the question is that are we strong enough and mature enough to use the smartphone wisely? Well, when a 14-year-old child gets access to smartphone, he gets addicted to it. He uses it at night, which affects a sleep chemical that's released by our body called melatonin. Well, it's a chemical that manages our sleep and wake cycle. But when we use our phone, it produces blue light, which sends a signal to our brain that it's still daytime, which disturbs our sleep. So when a 14-year-old child gets disturbed in his sleep, it raises an important concern about his mentality and even health. So it's not about whether we delay technology today. It's about making stronger and wiser generation tomorrow. Many people call it freedom. But according to me, real freedom is getting access to smartphone, but it is knowing where to stop. Building a better personality is far better than being dependent on technology. So it's not on me and it's not on us, it's on you, whether you want to be wiser or useless. Thank you.
So much, Sadi. And I think this is a corollary that we must all be using, whether you want to be, useless or you want to be healthy enough and strong enough. The purpose of, keeping teens in the epicenter of this conversation is very simple. During the age of 12 to 14, there is something, amazing happening in the human brain, which is called synaptic pruning. Basically, your brain is trying to, devise algorithms or, kick responses on how do you want to respond to situations. That's what's happening in the human brain when you're a teenager. Just imagine a situation that when this important stuff is going on in your brain, I put a casino in the middle of it. Will that pruning really go in the right direction? Or will you start to gamble? That's the judgment. So it's no more a call on, are we really looking at taking away social skills from them? It's really about human development. It's a challenge that's established, that's proven. We know this is bad for teens. Let's see how we handle it. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Dr. Liam Hammer, the head of school for International School of Lusaka from Lusaka, Zambia. Dr. Liam, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself in a very warm way.
And thank you so much, Daksh. In fact, I really love that you started talking about the teenage brain, because I think that's a really important part of this conversation. Yeah, and let's even step back and reframe. What is social media and what's its purpose? And look beyond the beautiful visions and missions. You know, if I check Meta, it's to give power to the people, to build community and bring the world closer. That sounds wonderful. That's not their purpose. Their purpose is to make money through advertising, right? Remember that. These social media companies are not your friends. They're not anybody's friends, really. They're not your friend. They design the algorithm, right, with the knowledge and understanding of how brains work, how dopamine is released with the ticks. And our first speaker, Shiksha, mentioned, you know, you're stuck to a phone, you're looking for the likes, right? It's designed to do that. It's designed to keep you addicted, right? And this is not a good thing. And it's not a good thing for adults. It's even worse for the teenage brain that's still developing. And in fact, sorry to contradict you, Andrew, you talked about balance, but maybe you can't balance when you're 14 years old, right? And you know, we don't balance the consumption of alcohol for young kids. We don't balance the consumption of nicotine for young kids. Why are we thinking about balancing the consumption of social media when we know that their purposes are much more nefarious than they might tell us, right? I'm from Australia. My country has instituted a social media ban to under 16-year-olds. Now, look, we know that's not perfect. We know that the companies are going around and trying to find ways to be tricky. It's always going to be a battle. But I think countries like my birth country, countries like India that are looking at this, we're making a statement. We're making a statement to the parents that are saying this is not okay, right? Daksh, you mentioned some statistics before, right? 92% of students in the UK have smartphones at age 12. We need to change this. Parents listen to school leaders. Parents listen to governments. And if these people say this is not okay, we can bring those numbers down. We can protect our children so they can have the playtime they deserve. They can have the growth and the mistakes and the development that they want, when we know all the research says that social media and excessive use of screen times is not good for them. As adults, we have to make these adult decisions and say no. Right? Let's protect our children. Let's make it 14 years old. Let's make it 16 years old. Let's experiment and find out, right? Our problem is, right, social media has only been around for the last 10 years or so. We don't have 10, 20, 30 years of longitudinal data to figure out how bad it is, but we're seeing those signs now. So now's the time to act and protect our children, protect them in schools, protect them at home, work together. And as I said, let's just say no, because we know it's not good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Liam. And I think you made a very important point. There has been so much PR, advertising, propaganda around all of us that we have started thinking of brands as our friends. I met a very successful businessman who gave me something that I remember for my life. And I think every teenager must remember this statement. You can either be a businessman or be a gentleman. You cannot be both of them at the same time. So any business anywhere on the face of this earth is never your friend. Don't take them to be your safe spaces. They are not. A teen must be equipped to understand that, yes, this is my safe space and this is not my safe space. And that's the responsibility of the parent, the school leader, what Liam just said. The no has to come from a responsible adult. You cannot wait for nature to do it, because by the time nature does it, we'll be too late. Because humans were able to live more because they defied nature and started using medicine. Otherwise, our life expectancy would have been 30 to 35 years only. So at this point as well, we will have to defy the organic evolution and rather take dramatic steps to stop this dopamine addiction. Thank you so much, Dr. Liam. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Manisha Rondekar, the principal of S. Radhakrishnan International School from Mumbai, Maharashtra, India. Mrs. Manisha, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. So just 2 days back, this topic is really so deep, just 2 days back, teachers were telling me that, ma'am, students are not able to give eye contact, So I said, I like just said jokingly that let's start teaching them in the real way, So see, all jokes apart, but if you see, like earlier when children gathered, there was so much laughter, noise, even mischief. But today when they gather, you see there is so much silence, and not because they have nothing to say, but because everyone is looking down and scrolling on their screen. So we are more connected, as somebody said just now, but increasingly disconnected from real human interactions. So, and actually, the data that you said, what I was also seeing, and it said that children now spend 5 to 7 hours daily on screens, and studies show that early exposure to social media significantly increases anxiety, low self-esteem, and so much more, And that is why now 42 countries are now supporting the movement that no smartphones till the age of 14. See, in India, actually, if you go to see, our culture has always believed in balancing. So our Sanskrit saying also says that ati sarvatra varjayet, excess of anything is harmful. But smartphones are useful, but early and unlimited access comes with a cost. So what are we losing? We are losing attention spans, outdoor play, reading habits, and most importantly, the ability to connect, empathize, and communicate. Swami Vivekananda says that we are what our thoughts have made us. And today, many young minds are shaped not by experiences, but by the algorithms, and before the age of 14, a child is still discovering who they are. But a smartphone, if introduced too early, it starts telling them who they should be. And that is very, very risky and dangerous. And here parents play very important role because they spend maximum time with them and they are the ones who give them that smartphone. So simple truth in Hindi, it says that बच्चे सुनते कम है but देखते ज्यादा है. So children don't just listen but they observe. So if we want them to limit their screen time, then definitely we must model our own behaviors first. See, I can't scrolling my phone and ask the child that, come on, now you're not going to see the Instagram. It is not possible, So this movement is not about banning phones, but it is about delaying that dependency, then building that maturity, and allowing children to grow naturally. So let them play, fall, argue, imagine, and even feel bored. Sometimes it is so important. Nowadays, parents get panic when children get bored. So what? We all have got bored, So, and that is why, and that is the social suicide. So let me just conclude that aim for something better, that now children, let's build children who are not just digitally smart, but who are emotionally strong, socially aware, and wisely connected, and just 1 hour, let us start it today itself, 1 hour without screens and one real conversation at home. We may discover that strongest networks that we have is not Wi-Fi.
Manisha, the first 3 minutes were over, but we'll try to come back to you during the open floor. Let me just add some, perspective to the discussion. We are not losing our children. We are not losing their attention span. We have already lost them. The damage is done. It's not happening. The progression has reached its peak now. And if it is not controlled at this point, there will be a challenge that we won't be able to sort out. Let me make it simple for you. If a adolescent or a teenager is not given a phone till the age of 13, you know what's their focus or attention span? It's nearly 12 minutes. And if a child is given a smartphone by the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, or whenever, we are currently giving them, what's their attention span by the age they reach by age 13? It's only 47 seconds. Do we want humans like this in the future society who cannot listen, understand, comprehend a topic for not more than 40, 45 seconds? It will be catastrophic for everyone. So we are in that phase where this damage has already been done. So just banning won't help. You'll have to reverse the wheel. You will have to take them back. And that journey is what Manisha ji mentioned. The parent, the ecosystem, the surrounding around that child has to completely change. It's no more about just controlling a teenager and giving an instruction. It's about taking evolution back. How do we do it is the challenge. Thank you so much, Manisha ji. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mr. N.S.S.K. Prasad Appala, the principal of Sri Medha Public School from Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh, India. Sir, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, all the panelist speakers and all my dear lovely children. So Daksh, you have rightly said, I was awaiting that point. So we are not losing, we have already lost. So it's very aptly said. And how did this happen? So this and all we know. Here, I would like to begin with a point, whether it is, what are we banning? The ownership of the mobile or usage of the mobile? That's the very first point. Because we see so many instructions, so many rules and regulations already in force, which the governments also in some cases fail to monitor. So it is the individual parent and the schools. The schools, particularly we as educators, we should take the ownership of every child, and we should take the responsibility of every parent to enlighten them on why this should happen. So a simple ban may not work on exactly. So for instance, I'd like to just put before everyone what we do here is every year we have an orientation for parents explaining the ill effects of mobile phones on children, particularly from the lower classes, from the lower ages. If mobile phone is given, what is the menace? So the attention disorders or reduced span and increased anxiety, these kind of issues are explained to the parents, and at the same time we advise them what should be done. So here also I'd like to put before everyone, now as Daksh said, we have reached the peak of the progression. So all of a sudden pulling out a mobile phone, I think it won't work. So here, because there are two factors here. One thing is the parents are completely into mobile phones, so they cannot leave it. And when they are using it, again, the point was said by Manisha ma'am, we cannot ask our children to stay away from the mobile phone. So it is the judicial usage that has to be promoted by the parents instead of pulling out the mobile phone completely and explaining the what to call aftermath of usage, and at the same time limited usage, because there is these days a lot of information is on the mobile phone, it comes through it, and complete delimitation of mobile phone usage also may not help and may not be possible. So at least half an hour a day under the parent supervision, so the child can be permitted, because at a stretch it cannot be restricted. And the same way, how to curtail this on a large scale. So a simple ban may not work. So schools, education institutions, educators, and local governments also should create awareness programs on this. There's for example, in few decades ago, we used to see several campaigns against tobacco usage. So these kind of campaigns should be in force regarding the mobile phone usage also. And most important players are the schools in this topic. So because most of the parents under the age of 14 and the children are connected with schools are the best place which can take an active part in this campaign. So with this, I'd like to conclude that complete ban on mobile phone usage may not be apt and appropriate, but judicial usage under the controlled supervision of the parents is what will help us avoid the present.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad, because this is the point that I wanted to make. It is equivalent to tobacco. You are not dealing with something, which is as simple like a candy. It's not candy, it's addiction. And it cannot let's take the example of Australia. Australia imposed a ban on social media use. Is it effective? It's not. Most of the teens, most of the children have circumvented the system and created an ecosystem of their own. A ban can start a conversation. It cannot reform the society. If legislation reformed the society, we would have been living in utopia. We don't. So policy has very varied impacts on different stakeholders. Policy cannot correct the world. Only communities can. If you as a community opt to do it, it starts happening. If your government wants to do it, it can just police you. And policing can only help when the damage is done. Policing cannot happen preemptively. It can only happen when the damage is done. Do we want that damage to be done to the future generation and then keep policing them and punishing them? That won't help. So we will have to find better ways of doing it. Let me share a discomforting fact for everyone. Most of the engineers in Silicon Valley who designed the infinite scroll and the like button, most of them send their children to schools in California that strictly ban all personal tech until the age of 16. To put it simply, they've built the drug, but they don't let their kids use it. Remember the statement. You cannot be a businessman and a gentleman at the same time. Think again. Just take a step back, read between the lines, understand what is not being said. That's where your wisdom really comes in if you have the attention span to do it. Thank you so much, sir. Let me invite the next speaker for today. Let's go back to a teenager. A very warm welcome to Mr. Maheshwari Kevin, who's a grade 11 student from Edgy International School from Abu Road, India. Kevin, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I want to begin with a very simple but powerful context. Think about your own childhood for a moment. Running outside without checking the time, laughing over small things, waiting for a favorite TV show all day, and talking endlessly with friends without a single notification. Now look at your today's child. Everything is instant. Entertainment, friends, information, all in one device. But somewhere in this everything, something very important is missing. And that brings us to today's question. Smartphone free until high school, smart parenting or social society? Let me tell you a small story. There was a parent who proudly said, "My child doesn't have any smartphone. I am protecting them." And honestly, that sounds responsible. Because yes, early smartphone exposure can lead to distraction, comparison, and addiction, even pressure to grow up too fast. So keeping distance feels like building a safe wall around your child. But there's a problem with walls. They don't just keep danger out, sometimes they also keep the child outside the world. The world is changing. Friendships are happening online. Learning is becoming digital, and even confidence today includes knowing how to navigate technology. So when a child suddenly enters that world later without a guidance, they don't feel protected, they feel unprepared. And sometimes they fall harder than those who were introduced earlier. So the real issue is not early versus late, it's guided versus unguided. Let me ask you something. If a child makes a mistake online at 16 without prior understanding, is that safer than the guided mistake at 13? Probably not. Because mistakes are not the problem, learning without support is the problem. So, what should parents really do? Not create a fear around smartphones, not create dependency either, but create awareness. Let children understand what is the real and what is fake, what is healthy, what is harmful, when to switch off, when to engage. Because one day, whether we like or not, they will have access. And on that day, they won't need control, they will need judgment. In conclusion, this is not about choosing between smart parenting or social suicide. It's about choosing between temporary control and long term understanding. Because the goal is not to deny technology, the goal is to ensure that the child finally holds a smartphone. The smartphone doesn't hold them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And I think this is really the point of the conversation, that are we really preparing them to hold a smartphone, or are we just delaying agony? That let it happen at a later age when they're an adult so that we don't have to take onus. Are we really just shifting the responsibility to them and not taking onus of their education or their development? That's the real question. Some more content or some more context for everyone. when a child or a 12-year-old sees a viral post on any social media, it gives them a dopamine release which is typically equivalent to a minor narcotic. And when they don't get that high that they have experienced by seeing that viral post, they experience something which is called dopamine crash, which is equivalent to clinical depression. They experience snippets of depression when they're not using any narcotic. This is the challenge. And the worst part, we have tested it. It has empirical evidence. It can be quantified. And even at this point, if we are not reacting, that's not because we don't know it, because this information is kept away from us. Think around it. Just some food for thought. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Romita Sharma, the principal of Orchids, the International School from Sonipat, Haryana, India. Romita ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Everyone. See, what we are talking about, I'm facing in a daily life because I'm taking care of a residential school. So nearly more than 175 students from grade 1 to grade 12 are living with me. Rather, I'm living in the premises with them. So like we say that there should be a ban. Now, at this stage, ban is not going to solve the problem. It is the sensitization towards the problem which will take care of, and we need to provide the alternative remedial measures for them. We do allow the parents to submit mobile smartphones. And I'm really surprised to see maximum of them have iPhones from grade 3 onwards. I'm not that capable enough to handle that iPhone, but kids are handling it. And now it's a status symbol. It's more of a status symbol for a parent rather than being of a child. So parents are providing that. We give them the usage. We allow them to use the mobiles. But we tell them on Sundays, we'll give you them for 1 hour. Rest for whole week, the mobiles are there. Initially, yes, students struggle when they come to the hostel. And maximum students are coming to the hostel because of this reason only, because this problem is out of the control from the parents' side. They say that my child cannot survive. But I'm sorry to say that parents have forgotten to say no to their kids. Out of 10 demands, at least, parents can accept 1 or 2 and say no to 7 and 8. But that's not happening. Now that onus comes to us. I know parents crib. I have a suggestion box where parents write a note to me. Ma'am, you are the worst person we have met. You have taken away our phone. So I said, okay, fine. I also tell them when I meet and have interaction with them, I tell them I got this message and I'm very happy about it. Kids are being attracted by reels. Kids are being attracted by OTT series, and that is affecting their behavior. Technology is not bad. Rather, it is the usage of the technology is the more driven fact for the student's life, which we need to take. And the onus lies. If you give a good mobile with a good dimension to a student, they'll click the best photographs for you. So when we give them all these things on Sundays also, we give them a task that you talk, but within this hour, you try and provide us the things where we are going to act upon it. And you know that beautifully they make it. But the whole week, they live without the phones. I gave them the time to play. Even after dinner time, I give them the time to play. Go exhaust your energies. They are learning more. They're coming closer to them. Social and emotional bonding is growing with them. Kids have forgotten to play. So we organize a lot of games where we call it a revival of old games also. We are forgetting as a parents, again, what ma'am had told earlier, that we are using Instagram and we are asking the child not to use the kids. Parents are making their own reels and we ask child not to make a reel or not to see the reel. That's really, really wrong what we are doing it. We need to guide them, give them a platform and tell them what is good for you and what is bad for you. That is the right onus. At this time, laws will come and every law has an escape in every country. What Dak said, that students are getting 100.
Thank you so much, Ramita ma'am. The 3 minutes were over. So you're very right that at the moment, for all the teenagers, let me give you some good, piece of information that you might like. The new status symbol is not the iPhone. The new status symbol globally is a phone-free school. A lot of high-end, superbly expensive private schools across Canada and Europe have rebranded themselves as digital monasteries. And parents are getting attracted to it. Now there is a elitist cognitive focus. So if you're really, you think that, you got status with your iPhone, I think you just lost it. You'll get it when you're able to stay phone free. So the status symbol has actually shifted. So think on these lines, all the teens who are there on the call. Let me invite the next speaker for today, the principal of Army Public School from Jammu and Kashmir, India. Mrs. Shrivastava, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
The same as my other speakers have already spoken, that it is very important for everybody to be having a judicious use of mobiles. Maybe not having mobiles at all is not the correct answer, but the correct way of dealing with it is probably, having the phone, but using it judiciously and using it for things which are effectively, which is required for the new generation, for the young kids, the teenagers. That is what is needed in today's world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Shrivastava. And you're right, the judicial use. But the problem with judicial use is humans learn by emulation. They don't learn by instruction. Can a parent who's sitting right now on this call, can you become phone free? If you can, only then support this ban, or stand with an opinion where you say a teen must not have a phone. The challenge is with the adult around that child. Is the adult ready to sacrifice? Can the adult sacrifice, or we are already in the loop? Can we get out of this loop? Let me give you a simple, fact before we conclude this call. We don't give 12-year-olds the keys to a car. Do we do that? We don't give our car keys to a 12-year-old that go and drive the car wherever we want, right? We try not doing it. Some people might, but that's a mistake. Don't do it. But we give them access to a smartphone, which is a vehicle for their entire reputation, identity, and mental health. We are only looking at physical damage. We are not looking at the kind of psychosomatic damage or the psychological damage that this small little teeny weeny device can do to a child. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub Web Talks. This was the 280th episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed the session, put both hands up in the air and wave them like this so that I know you enjoyed the session. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing evening, day, or afternoon ahead from whichever part of the world you're joining in us from. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.